Hello, accountability buddies. I'm Les, and this is another episode of Less is More Healthy. Coming to you from a bike ride. I'm out in Ipswich right now. I'm headed home. Um, Black flies have found me. I don't know if they're biting or not, but anyway, in my last episode, I talked about some of the goals that I had met for myself, some of the how I feel healthier, more well, more fit, stronger, and all of that. And I want to talk about some of the things that I've done to make that happen. Um, Number one is habit changing, changing some of my habits around diet and exercise. And I mean diet in terms of like eating habits and things like that. So, um, eating breakfast is a big one for me. So, I never ate breakfast. I'm not often hungry in the morning. And this is one of the few times where I've actually eaten even when I'm not hungry. This is a whole other subset of this eating habit section of things I've changed over the years. So, um, starting in like high school, I stopped eating breakfast because I just wasn't hungry first thing in the morning. And um, that meant that by the time lunchtime rolled around, I was starving and I ate too much and ate a lot of garbage. Or by the time I left for work, when I was about a half hour into the drive in, I would be starving. So I would stop and I would get a breakfast sandwich somewhere. Um, and I'm not saying like that's wrong or breakfast sandwiches are bad. Some breakfast sandwiches are actually really good and not bad for you. So, like, that's a thing that I like don't do anymore because I have a protein shake or a protein bar in the morning. I'm not a huge fan of um, industrial food or processed food or how would I engineered nutrition, but I have to say that protein shakes and protein bars have actually been really really helpful for me. And you know that's not going to be helpful for everyone. That just happens to be what worked for me. You do you. But yeah, protein shake, I use a Orgain protein shake in the morning and then vary that up with some protein bars and things. Vanilla protein shake with coffee in it is delicious. Chocolate, make a little mocha shake, delicious. So that's been a big game changer for me because by the time lunch rolls around, I'm not super starving. I'm hungry, um, but I'm not famished and I'm not eating more than I need and want. Um, so that's been a big one. So then the other thing is also being really aware of carbohydrates. So as a type 2 diabetic, maintaining my blood sugar levels is my goal. So I never want my blood sugar to drop below 80. Um, when you get to below 80, that's where you start to get shaky, lightheaded, brain fog, all of that nasty stuff. So I try to avoid that if at all possible. So that means I'm testing my blood sugars, and when I start to dip into the 80s, I eat something. And a game changer for me was learning like the 15 and 15. So 15 grams of carbs, test again in 15 minutes and see where my blood sugars are. And I try to keep my blood sugars between 80 and 120 all of the time. And that's not possible all of the time, but it's possible most of the time for me. And that has been covered in like grit from the rail trail I was on. Um, that has been actually where I've made some of the most progress this summer. Is like once I learned that I was able to kind of figure out how many carbs I needed to take in at particular times during my ride to feel really good and be able to push myself better and more than I have before. So, I'm able to go for longer rides and feel good at the end of them because of that 15 and 15 rule. Now, everyone's going to have a different take on that and what's going to work for them in terms of like maybe 15 isn't right for you, maybe 10 is right for you. I'm not perfect about it. I carry my little baggie of dates and I eat 2 dates every, half hour or so. I aim, depending on the length of my ride, for under 100 calories, or roughly, depending on what I'm eating. Um, I pre-pack my dates and my other snacks into 100-calorie packages, roughly. And those 100-calorie packages are usually 30 grams of carbs. And so, it's kind of, it feels a little disordered to count it out like that. But I also know if I don't count it out, then I risk going over and not feeling great. So, like, I'll use today as an example. I brought a Kind bar with me. I always keep something like that in my bag. And so I stopped for a cup of coffee at Little Wolf, and they didn't have any pastries. Sometimes I'll get a pastry or like a scone or something. Way too many carbs. But like on a ride like this, I can eat half the scone, throw the rest in my bag, and then eat it a couple of hours later and still feel good and not feel like I've blown my carbs out of the water. But the Kind bar, it was 33 grams of carbohydrates. And I ate it all in one sitting, and it was too many. I just didn't feel particularly good at the end of eating that, plus the cup of coffee. And I was like, okay, so that was not the right choice. And so sometimes, like, things like that, I feel fine after eating, and then sometimes I just don't. And so that's one of those, like, trial and error things. If I had taken that Kind bar, and if it hadn't been crushed in my crushed in my bag, I probably would have eaten half of it, um, and it would have been fine. Just like things to, like, explore and test out and see what works and what doesn't work. And it could have been that a different Kind bar would have worked fine. Or if I just eaten my dates, I would have been fine. And these are the things that I think about, and like I now will file that away in the back of my head and not eat that, going forward on a ride. So it's like the eating habits, but like also like planning out snacks in advance. So this is a whole other aspect of type 2 diabetes. Like in the past, I would have just like eaten whatever out of the bag and assumed it was the right amount. But I really had to relearn portion control, or portion size. Not portion control, but portion size. So like I will get my bag of dried mangoes, I'll get my bag of dates, and I'll get out the scale and snack baggies, and I'll divide them up into portion sizes based off of carb count. So then those will go into a larger zipper bag, and then like if I need a snack, I'll grab one of those. I'll grab those and I'll throw them into my bag for when I go for a ride. And that way I am just knowing that like every bag has 30 grams of carbs. I ate half that bag. I ate two of the dates, whatever. Like I know how many carbs are in one of those bags so that I can measure it out along my ride. And I have to say, that's been absolutely fundamental this summer in making a difference in my rides and me feeling good throughout the ride. Um, and I think that's one of the reasons like I've been able to push myself into longer and longer rides. Other than, the saddle sores that I've had, the end result of my rides is that I usually feel pretty good at the end of them. I'm not feeling terrible like I did last summer. Last summer I would feel pretty good, and then I would just crash, and I'm not doing that anymore. So that's been a huge benefit to eating throughout my ride. Not just like at the beginning or the end, but like having a few carbs here and there. And I actually think it's done wonders for my blood sugar levels and maintaining them in a way that keeps me healthy. So yeah, eating habits are one of those things that has been definitely helped, by changing things fundamentally. All right, so I'm going to leave this one there, and I'm going to follow it up with another episode on another thing that has been absolutely fundamental in progressing me forward. All right, thanks for being here. I'll see you next time. Go get outside, go do something physically active. Thanks, bye.